Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hang out with these nerds.
Scott.
Nathan Nerdock.
Nerdock is Ted.
And today, Nerdarchy gets out our crystal ball to peer into the future of 2017 as we ponder what is in store for Dungeons & Dragons. Jump down in the description below where you can find Nerdarchy, the newsletter, game weekly tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
D&D 2017. What are we looking at here?
Well, I kind of figured I had an idea what Wizards of the Coast was doing and was kind of going to continue doing, but then they changed it. So far, it's all been pretty much modules, adventures, I believe only one of which they did in-house. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe two.
Right.
Maybe they did.
Strahd and what else?
Storm King's Thunder.
Right, okay.
Not to be confused with Sky King's Thunder.
10 years have passed.
Yeah. Right, they did that, and then they also did the Skag Sword Coast Adventure Guide, which was done by Green Ronin. And then we got Volo's Guide to Monsters, which I believe that one was done in-house. Mm-hmm. So up until Volo's Guide to Monsters, it's pretty much all been stuff for the DM.
Yeah.
Like Wizards of the Coast said, we know Dungeon Masters are the ones buying the stuff, and we're just going to put it together for them and just do kind of like adventures.
The Sword Coast Adventures Guide has like a little bit for the players.
They did some of the playtested stuff.
Volo's Guide to Monsters has a little bit bigger chunk for the players with some new race options and expanded upon the monstrous races so that you can play those.
And then in addition to that, they did huge write-ups on different monsters. They did, Beholder and Mind Flayer and Goblinoids and Orcs and several others as well. All got their own entries. It was essentially their own chapter, right. However many pages that were. Example of their lair. By far, Volo's Guide to Monsters, in my opinion, is the best book that Wizards of the Coast has put out to date for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
I agree.
In some ways, it's even better than the core books, like in the presentation and how they did everything.
And I think that's why they decided that they were going to do the special printing, the special cover.
Oh, yeah.
So
let's talk about that a little bit. The fact that they do several things for your local flags. One is they get it before Amazon, and the other is if this trend holds true and they continue with it, with Volo's Guide, they did a special edition cover that you could only get at your gaming store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they should probably always do that from now on, pretty much.
Yeah. So in 2017, maybe we'll see more of that special edition copies, and of course we're going to see the early release stuff. But my guess is, depending on how well Volo's Guide to Monsters did, is going to determine where they're going to go forward with D&D books.
Let's talk about Volo. So one of the things that I've seen with the source books is that they are inherently underpowered. So basically, it seems to me like WotC has said, absolutely nothing in any core book that is not a core rule book cannot even approach the power level of anything in the core rule books, so that power creep is absolutely kept down, right? And so Volo's is the same thing. I think Volo's really seems like DM's book. Almost all the books. There really are not strong player options. There's not a single book where a player's like, I really need to buy that so that I can have this great thing in game wise. Am I wrong there?
There's the monsters race, and being able to play monstrous characters is like, people are into that, I think. So once it finally entered 5th edition, and you can get it in the Volo's Guide, it says what kind of monsters can be PCs. It's a big deal.
They get the monsters that get their own write-ups, or not necessarily monsters, but the uncommon races are Azamar, Furball, Goliath, Kenku, Triton, Tabaxi, Lizardfolk.
That's powerful. Yeah,
that's
that's a great
extra.
point. Yeah, I think you're right. It's a player's book then.
Beyond that, you've got the monstrous races that don't get the full write-ups, that it's just, look, here's the mechanics. You want to play Bugbear, Goblin,
and they don't worry about they don't worry about play balance either with those ones, because some of it's the only place you see monsters or see racial adjustments where you get negatives. As well.
There's a small amount, but it's one of those things that you literally say, okay, I want to play this race for role-playing reasons. What I'm getting mechanically is not as good as something out of the player's handbook. Others where it's like, all right, we're going to give this to you. It might be not necessarily game-breaking, but it might be a little bit more powerful than something out of the player's handbook.
75% of that book is for the DM. I agree with you 100%. So my question is this going to be part of their model? Like maybe like most of 2017, all we do is get more modules and more kind of like DM type stuff. And then they've released this one thing that's got a little tiny bit of player stuff. And they're like, these guys are so starved. They'll buy anything at this point.
Well, we've been getting so many Unearthed Arcana in 2016. I mean, what are we up to? It's quite a substantial, especially in the last quarter. They just they're shoving them at us.
They're doing all the classes. Yeah, but that's not official.
So, yes, well, what I mean is that's all
playtest.
That's all play-tested material in essence. They're going to get surveys back from that. They're going to get player feedback from that. That's going to propel the next product.
So 2017 is a product full of Unearthed Arcana.
I think
could be.
Unearthed Arcana at one point in time was a physical, tangible book that was released.
It was, absolutely.
I honestly think that they are going to take, at some point in time, might be 2017, might be later, but the playtested material that has gotten...
Becomes Unearthed Arcana, the book?
Becomes Volume 1.
100% disagree. Here's my take on what's going to happen with WotC in 2017. I actually think they're going...
Custom dice, standalone game.
No. So actually, a shutdown of the hardback books, and there's a reason why. So one, they have started to take that back in. They've stopped sending out to these other companies nearly as much. They did publish Strahd, and they published Volos, right? But I think what the big mindset is right now at WotC is the movie, right? And I think the movie's going to hit in 2018. It's not going to hit this year, right? Movie's going to hit in 2018, and I think what they care about is the possibility of 1 million new players, and I really think that's what the movie's going to bring, and that comes from the 90s. If you look at the numbers from the 90s, that's what we could get. We're at about 2 to 3 million players right now, and I think you could get a 50 or even 100% bump on that number, and that is all they are thinking about. And that's why we have Unearthed Arcana. They want to keep the really in-depth players playing, but they don't really need to do anything to keep them there. And the reason why is Dungeons & Dragons is Dungeons & Dragons. The name keeps players.
Just make a story if you want a new game.
Right, like exactly. And so I feel that they're trying to keep a stasis and keep this awesome D&D 5th edition core rulebook threesome pristine for the day the movie hits and players start rolling back in. And so, in my opinion, WotC does not care about hardcore players, and they don't need to. They are getting ready for the new ones.
Didn't they just hire a bunch of people?
I think you very well may be right.
Towards the end of 2016, I thought we saw that they had increased the ranks a little bit. Yeah. And which, right after they released 5th edition, they actually scaled back, right? They did cuts.
Exactly. They kept it really
And
lean.
then I thought I saw something in 20...
Weren't they down to like 8 people?
Yeah.
Something like that, but then I thought I saw something where they went back up to 12 or something.
But
like
also,
that.
so one, if they did it I didn't see anything as far as them adding a whole bunch of new people. I think you definitely might be right there. But one of the things, what did they not do, right? So one of the things that happened was there's a big old door slam on electronic tools. D&D, WotC has tried for time and time again to have official table tools that are computer-based, right? And they've constantly failed, constantly given them problems from a technical perspective and a money perspective. They slammed the door on that. There was a big one that was just announced in Q4 where there was a company that actually had real employees who was building D&D online tools that shut their doors because essentially WotC closed the order. And then, in addition to that, the other thing, and I want to know what you guys think on this, 2016, they said absolutely no print products. So there were no electronic products. There's no official PDF of any of the books in 2016, and I say the same will happen in 2017. And that's my take on where they're going.
Well, oddly enough, one of the things they did do is they opened up a bunch of licensing to Fantasy Grounds for virtual gaming. And also, if you look too, they've really thrown their hat in the ring with Matt Mercer from Critical Role,
right?
With
Absolutely,
Forrest Gray, and really they are moving into more of a media wing.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like they came to it a little late considering, but they're definitely seeing the value. You have Acquisition Inc.
Yep.
So you have all these things going forward, and I'm kind of curious to see what they do next year in 2017 or this year, probably by the time this video goes up.
Yeah, in Fantasy Grounds, I've been seeing stuff for those. It's not, it's not WotC trying to create something.
Yeah.
The drive from it is from somebody else.
Right.
So.
I'll throw.
No.
No, this is all official WotC We
Fantasy
actually,
Grounds is made by.
it's not. It's somebody else.
They
but
put their stamp on it.
They're getting
Yeah.
official products released into digital format to be for those platforms. Actually, we have them. Like, Fantasy Grounds reached out to us and said, "Hey, are you interested in using our stuff? Here's like a master key of all the stuff for Wizards of the Coast, and we have Stormy King's Thunder and the Curse of Strahd. It's definitely tied in with Wizards of the Coast, and maybe that's why they backed off. They're like, you know what? We don't have to create anything new. We can. Licensing has worked out for us really good. They really are working with this very lean business model.
Yeah.
And really, they seem to be ignoring the tabletop gaming industry and looking at business as a whole.
Yep.
Going, how do other successful businesses run their business? And they're kind of running Wizards of the Coast that way, whether we like it or not, guys. But I think it's like a feast or famine type thing too. It's like it's survival of the fittest. If we want Dungeons and Dragons to be around, they're trying to figure out how do they keep doing that and make it profitable so that Hasbro cares about it. Hasbro only has Dungeons and Dragons because they wanted magic, right? Yeah. So Dungeons and Dragons doesn't mean anything to them. So one of the things you might want to think about, the people that are still around at Wizards of the Coast, they are probably trying to save your game. They probably spend every day at work trying to save your game, making it big enough that Hasbro goes, all right, I guess we can keep doing this. We won't turn off the lights, because who knows what Hasbro will do? They could sell the license, or they could shelf it, and you'll never see an official Dungeons and Dragons product again.
That would suck. So I'll throw this out there as not so much speculation, but a kind of a wish. Maybe some kind of partnership between Wizards and Nerdarchy.
Hey, that would be actually that ties into something that I think is going to be a big part of Wizards of the Coast and 2017 and D&D, and that is the rise of the Rockstar DM. And I can say this because I'm just a lowly staff writer, but you guys have become part of a growing group of Rockstar DMs. Matt Mercer, Chris Perkins, you guys.
I'm kind of embarrassed you
Fistful
said
of
that
Dice,
to them.
like Dawnforge, and we're talking thousands of views, right? And so this is a huge change in tabletop role-playing games. So we've always had tabletop role-playing games, and that was a super cool thing that we did. Now the hotness is watching tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah, it's
that
crazy.
Is really growing up. And so I think that's really a big it's important to think about. And I definitely and I agree with you. Wizards of the Coast is picking the winners. They're keeping it lean, and like with Fantasy Grounds, they're saying let's look at Roll20 and all the other, but we're going to pick the winners and we're going to put our stamp on them and let them carry these forward. And I agree with you. I think you guys are doing everything you need to get in position to get the blessing from Wizards.
Well, they've made some moves. And I don't know what it's going to mean for 2017, but if you look at what they done with the DMs Guild, where they're like, all right, everyone create in our playground. It's not official, but you can use our stuff for 25% of whatever you make.
Yeah.
So they created a brand new stream of revenue. What else did they do? Well, they took all their old products and said, hey, it's now on RPG Drive-Thru or Drive-Thru RPG, as well as DMs Guild. Buy it if you like. They also have a lot of it for print on demand, so it costs them literally zero to now sell all these old products.
Yeah. And to your point about Unearthed Arcana earlier, I think that is a big part of what's happening with D&D right now. And one of the things I think that they're saying is, hey, I think they really would like to just do splat books like crazy, just like they did for 3rd edition.
Right.
But I think they've learned that might not be the best way to make a game accessible to new players.
Well,
and Unearthed Arcana is free, and it's so wonderful.
Well, with the limited in-house stuff, what Unearthed Arcana has the ability to do is, hey, we got some ideas.
Yeah.
You guys, how balanced is it?
Yeah.
Let us know. They do the playtesting. They figure out how to get it done. They give the feedback. Okay, guys, here's all the information that our people did, not us. Now let's evaluate this information and decide, is it legit or not? I think that there's a big enough market out there that play Adventure League. I've talked to people online that it's like, look, I don't have enough people to have an official gaming group at my house or Joe's house or whatever have you. I can only play at my gaming shop in Adventure League. Well, if they're only playing Adventure League, they don't get to play with anything that's not on that shelf over there.
Yeah, exactly.
They can only they can't play with the Unearthed Arcana, and there's some fun stuff that's out there. There's stuff that we've easily brought into our games and adopted house rules. None of that happened in Adventure League.
Yeah.
You have to play by what's written in the books. And I think that there is enough draw there that there has to be something else at some point in time that's here's official stuff for players that's going to be legit in Adventure League. It needs to happen at some point in time.
Yeah, 2016 was huge for Watts as far as generating streams of income, generating publicity. And now the question is, where is that momentum going to carry them next? I mean, in 2016, they also released the SRD 458 that I was skeptical. I really didn't think we were going to get it. But you know what? They found all these different things that to bring more money in at the same time cutting costs to keep the company lean, to in essence probably stay off of Hasbro's radar when it comes time to cut things.
Yeah.
They're like, oh well, these guys actually bring in some money, and they don't really cost us anything to run this department, so we can let this keep going. And I feel like that's kind of like they're gonna have to carry that forward in 2017, and they're really careful about the product releases and picking their winners.
Yeah. And
like you said, they're using Unearth Arcana and all the online resources to play test stuff. That's the other thing. The DMs Guild is brilliant. It literally is their lab, right? They see what other people are making, and also the talent that's out there. They come here, they drop their stuff in Wizards of the Coast lab. They get all the data, they get all the information, and now when they would actually release their own products, and Volo's Guide came out after DMs Guild too, mind you. They realize what people want, and that's exactly probably what they're going to get in 2017. It's going to be fueled by Unearthed Arcana information, and it's also going to be fueled by the DMs Guild information. And I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't taking all those surveys and taking all that data from the DMs Guild and outsourcing that to a statistics company or marketing company that then churns all the numbers and goes, here you go, this is exactly what your people are buying,
really
what they want.
Yeah. It's interesting.
How much they're willing to pay.
And one thing I was thinking about is just some of the things that are going to shut down. And I hate to say it, but I think Mike Merle's a smart guy, and I think running a great business and making it strong and having it with a rock-solid foundation is making some choices on what you don't do. And so this is one of the things I think won't happen in 2017, which is no more Magic the Gathering Dungeons & Dragons official content. They made it beautiful. You gave me a really nice actual printed copy of it. I loved it. I play them both. I absolutely love both of those products. It fell flat. Like I don't think that really it caught the zeitgeist, or like there was a lot of energy behind it. I'm really glad they tried it, and I think important companies need to be taking moonshots and doing big things. But I don't think there was really a big market for that. Am I wrong? What do you guys think of that stuff?
There's definitely a crossover between D&D and Magic, and really the amount of effort that went into it. The design, in my opinion, was to say, okay, let's get the D&D people to try out Magic, and if it boosts the Magic sales, all the
totally
better.
Disagree.
And wait,
it was floating away. Yeah.
It's also, can we get any of the Magic players to play D&D?
Yeah.
If you can get any additional crossover, it's beneficial. We already know that the people who play Magic the Gathering are people who are going to spend money.
Yeah.
So, hey, can you throw a few extra bucks at these D&D books?
Yeah.
It's like a collab project. And you get two people on YouTube doing videos together from different channels. Well, the idea is that you're exposing the other group's people to the idea.
Yeah. But I don't think they got much flow. I really don't think much came over, and I think that, so I think that's going to stop in the new year, which I think is sad. But I
mean, we got two essentially free downloads,
right? Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah,
it was a trial.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that is one of the things we'll find out in 2017 if they convert any of the Magic. Now, that being said, going with the model of 2016 was, hey, we have all these resources. Doesn't cost us anything. We just reused them, right, when it came to our assets and making it pretty. They really didn't have to do anything. And I think the hope and the idea was, can we capture the Magic the Gathering people and bring them into D&D and get them, like you said, to spend money over here. If you're playing D&D, I can't imagine there's D&D players that don't know about Magic the Gathering. But I don't feel like it goes the other way, because that market is so big. It's so much younger.
Yeah.
Or is it still younger?
Well, see, actually, it to me,
You're in there, you know.
Yeah, the real heart and soul of Magic the Gathering right now is Dude Bros. Like, and so the thing that really drives Magic the Gathering is I win, you lose, me up, you down, and that's why I think it didn't flow over. Is they're like, we all play this game, we all tell a story together, we all have fun. Where's the part where I win?
Where do I crush my opponents?
Exactly. And actually, there was a time where the slogan for Magic the Gathering was "Here I rule," literally, right? Like, and that
You're going to say, "See your friends cry,"
right? Exactly. I mean, that's kind of what it says, yeah. And so I think that and it is highly competitive, and that is where there's a kind of a fissure, like, because I think that's one of the reasons why I love tabletop role playing games so much. Is the whole point is that we should all try to win, and we need to win together, and that just there's no aspect of that in Magic the Gathering.
I got one for you guys. What campaign setting do you think we're going to see, whether it's through a module or through a campaign setting in 2017? What's next? So we've already kind of been official products too. I'm talking. So we've been given a glimpse at Ravenloft. We've definitely gotten Forgotten Realms. So we've got those two.
Eberron.
You think Eberron?
Eberron is the only one that they've touched on in Unearthed Arcana. So to me, that says this is where we're working.
And it was a newer product. When you think about all the different years of different campaign settings,
it's the most diverse. We've seen that they started work on it. I want to see that stuff become official. I want better rules for the Eberron stuff, because what they gave us wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I think a big part of it too is like there's popular ones like Dragonlance and Dark Sun that you could possibly visit, but the problem with those are they exclude things from Dungeons and Dragons, and Wizards of the Coast is I feel like they're going to want you to play with all their stuff and need all their stuff.
Yeah, Dark Sun's really niche when it comes to who wants to play it.
I think Dark Sun is popular, but it's popular you either love it or hate it.
Like Silence.
But Dark Sun, it requires a bigger rule set. It requires a whole new set of race builds. It requires a whole new set of class builds, or a single class build, depending. You have to re-script Cleric into the Templar. It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of work for that niche marketing. Whereas the
Eberron, you just open the doors.
You open the doors and it's like, all right, go play.
Everything you had plus some new stuff. There's also a lot of people that would like to see more Greyhawk. But I'm like, personally, I go, why?
Exactly.
Forgotten Realms is Greyhawk 2.0.
I don't want to see.
Why bother?
I don't want to see Forgotten Realms. I don't want to see Greyhawk. If I wanted standard fantasy, it's out there in every iteration.
I've even seen the argument that people made is like Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms is the reason why you think of them as generic. I'm like, no, it's because they're copied off of Tolkien, which was copied off of folklore and mythology. That's why I see them as being generic.
So my prediction is nothing. I think they're really going to keep the ground clear for the movie. I think it's all about the movie going forward, and so I don't think they'll build one. If they
got to release products, though.
That's just it. I actually don't think they do. And actually, they've had practice, like 2 years getting up to D&D, of running D&D without a lot of products, which is kind of strange. But and so I think there will be products. Very, very few. I think they're keeping it as minimal as possible. I don't think there will be one. But if there were one, if they broke their own rule, my choice would be Birthright. I've always been a huge fan of Birthright. It's not a lot of people played that, but I love it. You play like princes and kings. It's in your blood to rule.
Well, we've got 5 adventure books that have been released, and
in 2 years.
Okay,
yeah,
but then we've also got 2 additional books between the Skag and Volos, so that's 7 books on top of your core 3. So yeah, in all these years, we've only gotten a total of 10 books.
Real light and very light for the history of Dungeons and Dragons.
Very light.
But that means, based off of that same iteration, we should be getting at least 2 products in 2017. I would say as a minimum.
Yeah, and you think one of those will have a new setting.
So
I think there'll be modules.
I think at least one of them will be a module, but it could be hey, you've had a sampling of Ravenloft. Well, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to give you an adventure in Eberron.
What is it, Riken? what's Van Richten?
Van Richten's.
Yeah,
Which-
Van
what if they
Richten's
do?
Guide.
What if they do the
Van
Monsters
Richten's
Guide
Guide.
to
Yeah.
Man.
Van Richten's Monsters Guide,
Yeah.
and they give it the Volo treatment, the same exact thing. And I think a big factor on that is going to be how many book Volo's guides did they sell. We know from our Amazon links that in the last couple months, you guys have purchased through our Amazon links a good like 40 of them or so.
Yeah, yeah, it's healthy.
And we're just a small percentage of the whole the whole number.
Right.
Yeah,
So I think that it's very possible for them to do something. Let's do a standard adventure and then some other kind of pseudo splat book similar to Volo's Guide. It's very possible, since we did see Ravenloft, let's give you a taste. Here's Eberron Adventure, and let's give you the couple of races and the class. We don't need to give you the full campaign setting. We'll just give you the adventure, and maybe they'll continue that kind of iteration. And, oh, you want the full Eberron? Well, you're going to have to buy 3 or 4 books over the next 4 years.
Well, actually, I would throw this out. I do fundamentally disagree in that I actually think Dungeons and Dragons is the only tabletop role-playing game product where you do not need to make product, and the less you make, the better. And the reason why is they always have product. It is the core rule books. Those are the ones that spread the game to new people and make it grow back to what it was in the 90s, which was 5 to 10 million players. And I believe that every source book they make is a threat to getting back there. And that, and that making these big, huge, voluminous worlds. If you want that, you can go to Pathfinder. There's 20 books. They stack this high. And so they are the one. Dungeons and Dragons doesn't need anybody. And they have to keep stasis, because I cannot tell you how important a movie is. The movie could change everything. And you're talking $1 billion. So if you can screw up $1 billion property with chump change $1 million max source book, why would you do that?
Well, it's really going to depend upon what they actually do with that movie. Really, I will wait and see if they haven't taken the lessons from their last attempt, then they're in trouble, because the last one was an abysmal failure.
Yeah, I think that already we're seeing that they're going in a better direction.
Well, you always run the problem when you have, basically, as fans, you have people who write stories.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of DMs waiting for a really good story, and it's like, well, if they feel like they could have did it, then
Yeah.
That's
you
true.
know, make a
Right.
compelling
But,
story
I mean,
that you actually want to go
They
watch.
they have to make sure that it's a compelling story and that they're true to the source material. And I've said this in other videos before, the Beholders being nothing but guardsmen was atrocious.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that word sums it up enough.
Yeah, there are so too many things wrong for us to actually. It's like they never even consulted anyone that's played Dungeons and Dragons when they did the movie.
That's a good point. I am actually ignorant on who is actually making the film, because we're talking about WotC, but that's the D&D property. But who's doing the film aspect of the?
They did
one?
release. They did release I think the screenwriter and the director.
Exactly. Screenwriter is from Conjuring 2, and the actor is Ansel Elgort, who I think he was in some of these more like teen films.
Somebody did one of them. I forget who was involved, but they were involved with the Goosebumps movie.
Yeah.
Which was decent.
Yep.
It wasn't a bad movie. It was kind of like true to what Goosebumps is, and
The writer is a solid writer, and I think they chose, and the person they chose to be the main like fighter and who's going to be the kind of the anchor of the party was considered for Han Solo. So I think they're going in the right direction.
So we're expecting a trailer in 2017 as well,
Yes.
as well as like
we will get a trailer. In
who's
2017.
actually in the movie and like what's going on with it.
that actually
that
might be
could-
the biggest thing in 2017
Yeah,
as we
the
start
trailer.
getting the trailer and information
Yeah.
about the movie and things of that nature. I think we're going to get 2 to 3 products. I'm thinking 3 because even in 2016 we got Volo's Guide, we got Ravenloft, we got Storm King's Thunder.
He said it right.
We've got the Dungeonology book, and the question is too, like, it depends on the model. If they continue to outsource, as long as people keep buying the products, they're really not limited on how much they could possibly do it. I would love for them to do a D&D version of Gamma World like they did with 4th edition.
That'd be cool.
I don't know if the 5th edition rules would hold up
Right.
for that game, and it would be a lot of work.
It would definitely be a lot of work converting, especially because of the way they made it for 4th. For I guess that's Gamma World 7th
Yeah,
for the
it is
4th edition
7th.
rule set.
It is 7th edition, yeah.
Like that construct is different. So like, would you say you would pick a race in a class, but I don't know. It's
It would have to go back to like
Now,
earlier
in
editions.
my opinion, that would definitely be the best way to go. To me, if you create a new source book and it's new property, and you're just using the rules, that doesn't take any shine off of D&D core, and then people can go and continue. So that is what I would do. Is
That
take
was kind of early TSR, where they would release not as many books, but they were also releasing a lot of games.
yeah.
So you had Star Frontiers, and you had Gamma World, and there's other Top Secret, and those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there were more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what about you guys? What are you expecting for 27 for your Dungeons and Dragons game?
for 27.
2017.
2017. What did I say? 27.
You're good.
2017. What are you expecting? What are you hoping for? Let us know in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
Also, consider reading the nerdarchy.com. There's a lot of great articles on there about all kinds of tabletop role-playing games, including Dungeons and Dragons. Lots of great writers there. Samantha and Nigel and Ty and me and a whole bunch of others. So check it out.
You can also Patreon us in a good way over on Patreon.
You can also hang out with us over on Facebook.
So until next time.
Stay nerdy.